There are various types of spinal injuries that could occur. They can be split up into the following categories: whiplash, soft tissue injuries, spinal cord compression, spinal dislocations with cord involvement and without cord involvement, spinal fractures with cord involvement and without cord involvement. Whiplash. Whiplash is an injury to the cervical spine, commonly at the junction of the 4th and 5th cervical vertebrae, occurring as a result of a rapid acceleration or deceleration of the head on the body. If massive forces are applied during this, it can lead to an injury to the spinal cord. Soft tissue injuries. Sometimes the player could receive an injury and experience severe neck pain, but after inspection it turns out that there is no spinal fracture or cord injury. This could initially appear to be a major injury and needs to be treated as such. Until the player has been x-rayed, there is too big a risk not to treat the injury as if it were a spinal cord injury. The tissues and muscles surrounding the spinal structures are injured, which provide the sense of pain in the neck area. This is treated by a doctor after excluding a more serious spinal injury with a soft cervical collar to assist the muscles whilst they recover. Spinal cord compression. The spinal cord can be compressed by broken bones in the spinal column, ruptured or dislocated intervertebral discs, bleeding, reduced blood supply to the cord, or swelling. This compression of the cord could cause disruption of the nerve supply below the site of the injury. The severity of this injury depends on how seriously the cord is compressed and how long it is compressed for. Often these injuries see a full recovery if the compressed cord is decompressed before permanent damage occurs in the cord. Spinal dislocations. When a vertebra is displaced from its normal position in the spinal column, it is called a dislocation. A dislocated vertebra can be associated either with or without spinal cord involvement, with similar consequences to spinal fractures, and should be handled the same. A dislocated vertebra can shift and pinch or sever the spinal cord, cutting off the supply of nutrients and blood to the cord, resulting in the cord dying. The nerve can die, and the result can be paralysis for the player if not managed appropriately. Spinal fractures without cord involvement. Like any bone, a vertebra can break. These fractures have the same signs and symptoms of normal fractures, i.e., pain and possible deformity. In certain cases, the spinal vertebra could be fractured, but there is no damage to the spinal cord. This is an extremely dangerous fracture, as the slightest movement could result in the cord being damaged, with disastrous consequences for the player. Spinal fractures with cord involvement. This is when a vertebra is fractured and the cord is damaged. It has effect on the player's ability to move and what sensations they may or may not have. The cord can be damaged in various ways, but there are two major categories that we might encounter. Incomplete lesion. The cord is partially damaged, but not completely severed. The loss of nerve function would depend on how much of the cord is damaged. It is arguably the most dangerous fracture that the rugby medic will treat, as the cord has already received some damage and could easily become completely severed if not treated correctly. Complete lesion. The cord is completely transected and there is no longer any nerve supply below the level of the injury. This results in complete paralysis. In this situation, nothing can be done to improve the outcome of the player's injury. However, the on-field medical management of this player remains the same.
Signs and symptoms of spinal injuries could include some or all of the following. Deformity of the spine. The spinal column is not continuously aligned. This is an extremely difficult sign to notice. If the player is lying on his back, do not move the player's body to inspect the spine. Pain in the site of the injury. This is one of the most common signs with spinal injuries. Inability to move. The player might not be able to move his arms or his legs. Lack of sensation to certain areas. The player might not be able to feel any sensation in his arms or his legs from stimuli that you provide. Significant pins and needles. This could be in the arms or legs. Swelling. Soft tissue swelling around the site of the injury would not necessarily rule out a severe injury. Abdominal breathing. When the muscles used for breathing are not working due to nerve damage, but the player's diaphragm is still working, the player will appear to only be using his stomach to breathe, and his chest will not be rising and falling as he breathes. Priapism. The player might have an erection due to changes in nerve conduction and blood supply. Slow heart rate. Spinal injuries have an effect on the heart's electrical conduction system and might cause the heart rate to be abnormally low, particularly for a player who's been physically exerting themselves.